An objective is currently being contested.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Chris here with Shughead Gaming, and I'm bringing you my review for Frostpoint VR Proving Grounds, developed by inXile Entertainment and published by Thirdverse. Frostpoint released for PCVR December 1st on both the Steam and Oculus storefronts for an estimated price of $25. Of course, this is an estimate only as it depends on your region. Frostpoint VR Proving Grounds is a sci-fi team-based multiplayer shooter that pits two sides against each other across two PvP game modes. This 10v10 shooter looks to take a bite out of the PvP shooter market on PC VR, but doesn't bring anything worth leaving Population 1 or whatever your current go-to shooter is. Stick with me while I tear it down and find out. As always guys, if you like this video, please hit that like button. It not only helps out my channel, but VR gaming as a whole. And if you'd like to see more VR content from me, please consider subscribing, and for video updates, hit that bell icon. Kicking things off, let's take a look at graphics. Rumor has it that Frostpoint Proving Grounds was originally designed as a solo adventure. I start this review with this, as I believe that to be true, as evidenced by many observations during my time with the game. With that context in mind, running through the game's 4 maps is a rather bland experience that often feels like assets were just placed out in open areas to lay out basic and functional maps. And with the exception of the bunker map, which features some corridor-based areas, the maps felt so samey. I literally had to look at how many maps there were, as they all felt tiringly similar. This, along with the flat and uninspired level design, leads me to feel like we are witness to a cancelled single-player game in which assets were simply recycled, maps made, and the subtitle Proving Grounds added in order to salvage what they could. A point that is reinforced by the various alien creatures that are included as attackable NPCs, and the flying ships off in the distance, with absolutely no context or care given to their place in the world. From a purely cosmetic standpoint, Frostpoint is serviceable at best. Draw distance is a mixed bag, where on one hand it shows off a rather impressive draw distance, making sniper scopes fun to use, but on the other hand sees frequent texture pop in throughout the world when even 50 feet away. In fact, like the overall level design, everything here simply feels like it was just finished enough to rush it to market, with scripted character animations, a basic lighting system, and boring textures. A far cry from inXile's previous VR title, The Mage's Tale, which felt lovingly crafted. That being said, despite the game's sci-fi paint-by-numbers appearance, it does feel like a game that was polished as much as it could be, offering very few glitches, bugs, or hit detection issues. In addition, weapon designs based mostly on real-world guns do feel like they were handled with care, as they looked and animated quite nicely, holding up decently when compared to other PvP shooters based on similar styled weaponry. However, this feeling of polish is tarnished by some odd performance issues, in which the first run through any given level was always marred by image stutters, as the world map seemed to continue loading in while I ran through it. Subsequent respawns played smoothly, however, the issue would happen all over again upon loading into a new map. An issue I had running on the game's rather underwhelming ultra settings on a 3080. Sound is up next.
Your team has captured an objective.
Sound design here comes off similarly to the visuals in that it is serviceable but does absolutely nothing truly well. Music here, while used in a limited capacity, is of the epic action variety and often sits far back in the mix, often having very little impact to the experience. Voice work is used to even less of a capacity, as it serves little more than to just act as sort of an AI, highlighting a thing you should do or that a match is about to start. What's here is done fine, but again is rather generic and simply serves a practical purpose. A trend that also perfectly describes the sounds of the game world itself, offering just enough atmosphere and nuance to feel present, but little else. And finally, gun sounds, a real sticking point for me in real-world shooters. And while Frostpoint certainly does not touch some of the better VR shooters in the market, weapon sounds here are, you guessed it, Serviceable, sounding for the most part authentic but lacking much in the way of detail or power. It gets the job done, but I can't say it did much else. In fact, that's a perfect description for the entire sound mix here in Frostpoint. And that brings us to gameplay. Frostpoint is in every way a meat and potatoes PvP shooter. This 10v10 shooter brings to the table 4 maps, along with 2 modes, Team Deathmatch and Conquest, both of which play out exactly like you think they would. Matches start each player off with a small amount of currency in which they use to purchase their loadout for that current life. Currency does not carry over from previous matches, so weapon selection is very limited out of the possible 18 guns and 7 consumables, until you return back to your home base, either by choice or death. A player can equip a maximum of 2 sidearms on their hip, one of which is there by default, and a single 2-handed rifle that can be stored on their back. In addition, 2 consumables can be equipped and consist of such things as grenades, personal shields, health stims, and a few alien-based explosives. Gun selection runs the standard gamut of real-world SMGs, assault rifles, sniper rifles, and pistols. However, surprisingly does not include shotguns, an unfortunate omission to be sure. Things are however mixed up slightly by the inclusion of 3 alien guns, all of which are energy-based and require a charge-up time. And while the weapon variety on offer is more than sufficient, it is undermined by the fact that weapons cannot be modded at all, either visually or performance-wise, meaning you are stuck with the mods a given weapon comes with, and no ability to preset loadouts, no gun progression system, or character leveling system. What you see is what you get, a point that really hits home when you start a new match and your currency resets and you start from scratch. Fortunately, the core gunplay is not that bad, with basic gunplay that is actually pretty solid, if not just a little underwhelming. Reloads are done manually and lean more towards the realistic side of things, but the game has little concern with such things as mags that need to be manually removed or the like. Ammo is loaded from a stash on your hip, which unfortunately is unlimited, meaning ammo conservation is simply just not a thing here in Frostpoint. What does elevate the game considerably, though, is some excellent controller tracking, offering some of the lowest amount of occlusion I've played in a recent shooter, making shooting through sights much less of a chore than other titles in recent memory. Unfortunately, decent gunplay can't overcome the boring level design and sheer lack of content, meaning things get old pretty quick here. A point that could be somewhat negated with a squad of friends and some competitive gameplay. Unfortunately, during my multiple play sessions only a few days after launch, it would appear lobbies are ghost towns, with gameplay sessions seeing only maybe 5 real players at most. Fortunately, the game does feature AI bots to fill out player slots, but I struggle to even call them AIs as they really are quite stupid. In addition to human and AI players, Frostpoint also touts the game as having a unique PvE twist, which in reality consists of alien creatures that spawn randomly around the map and attack both sides. Unfortunately, they are even more stupid than the game's AI bots and offer little more than some extra target practice, and again reinforcing the feeling that the game is just making up reasons to utilize assets from a prior iteration of the game. Frostpoint can be played either seated or standing and can be played with a moderate amount of room. Being a full motion VR title, sickness could be an issue here, but the game's mandatory heads-up display that, as you can see from the footage, already limits your in-game view, when combined with additional blinders and the option for click turning, should help to mitigate most issues for gamers without their VR legs. Finally, that brings us to fun factor and my final review. Frostpoint VR Proving Grounds is unfortunately the perfect title for the game, as it often feels like the foundation for a more robust and fleshed out game. Gunplay, visuals, and sound are all just okay, and not helped by the dumb AI, empty lobbies, low map count, and lack of any meaningful progression systems. Coming from a studio that made one of VR's finest titles with The Mage's Tale, they have proven their capabilities in the VR scene. As such, it's just hard to care about a title when it feels like the studio didn't. As you guys may know, I hate numbered review scores and instead review games on a basis of buy it, burn it, or wait on it. Honestly guys, as is, this game is basically a burn it for me. Look, it certainly isn't a trash game, and I honestly did have a bit of fun with it, as it played pretty good. Unfortunately, with so many awesome PvP shooters in the current PCVR scene, there's just no reason to pick up a game that is just so average across the board and appears to be dead on arrival as far as an interested player base. Honestly, I was psyched for this title when looking at the first trailer, but sadly, this isn't the shooter you're looking for. Instead, maybe save your money for the incoming Medal of Honor Above and Beyond instead. Anyways, guys, thanks for stopping by. If you liked the video, please hit that like button. And if you'd like to see more VR content from me, you guys know the deal. Please consider subscribing, and for video updates, hit that bell icon. Thanks for supporting the channel, guys, and I'll catch you on my next video.